Good afternoon, good evening, perhaps good morning if you're in some distant part of the world. This is the quarterly press conference of the People's Action Movement. We start, as usual, with prayers, and so I'm going to ask the folks in the room to bow their head, and I would lead us in prayer. Our most gracious and righteous Father, we thank you for this day, God. We are grateful that we can come here today, Lord, as an opposition party to speak our truth. And God, we know that the people want to hear from us. We know, Lord, that your word also says that the people are to have confidence in their leaders, God. And so we express our confidence today in our leaders and in the truthfulness of their words that would be shared today, Lord. Lord, we declare our love for this country of St. Kitts and Nevis. And so we have come not to pull down, but to build up. We have come not only to criticize, but to offer solutions. And so, Lord, we pray that your Holy Spirit would be with us and that we would be in union with your word and your will. And we thank you, God, in the name of Jesus. Amen. So I want to welcome everyone to the quarterly media conference of the People's Action Movement. We may have missed the mark of this second quarter by a couple of months, but we are glad nonetheless that we can come and fulfill that promise that we made to the people to come to them every quarter to share our views and reviews of what is happening in the government locally and how it is impacting and affecting the lives of the citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis, both locally and at times in the diaspora. So we thank you for joining us and we welcome you. This is the very first media conference since our new political leader, I almost said honorable, but that is to come. Natasha Gray Brooks was installed as political leader of PAM. That happened during our convention in June this year. And so she is now in her official capacity as political leader of the People's Action Movement in the very first press conference here this afternoon. And so I want us all to pay keen attention to what she'll have to share. Obviously, she is sharing the views of our beloved party. And so the comments that are shared and the responses that would be given today to the questions and all of the observations that would be made, even external to the people who are in this room, would represent, of course, the views of the People's Action Movement. And so I hope wherever you are, you would just give a little word of welcome if you're watching the live and to express your best wishes to her in this instance, if you haven't done so before. So welcome again, everyone. The order for the balance of things really is to have some opening remarks from our political leader, and then we would sort of give a brief segue to the two deputy political leaders who are by name, if you have not recognized them by face this afternoon. On my far left, Mr. Azad Gomes, and on his right, or on our political leader's left, is Mr. Lincoln David Pell. What we have done in the past is to ask the supporting cast, if you will, to zero in on a specific subject matter. And so this afternoon, Azad would focus on housing, infrastructure, and Mr. Pell, being a former security professional or senior police officer, because he's still a security professional, would speak on the issue of crime. And so when that is done, we would have the questions from the media, those that are in the room, and of course, I'll be monitoring my phone and the live to see if there are also questions that are shared virtually. So again, thank you very much for joining, And without any further delay, I would turn over to our political leader to hear her opening remarks.
Thank you, Madam PRO, for your kind words, your usual eloquence and professionalism. Mr. Azad Gomes, Mr. Lincoln David Pell, two deputy political leaders of the People's Action Movement, members of the National Executive, members of the viewing and listening audience, those present today, and on all the social media platforms. Good afternoon. Welcome to our second quarterly media conference for 2024. We are happy that you can join us today, just days away from the actual second anniversary of a failing Labour government. I want to take this opportunity to thank our most gracious and merciful Father for sparing us from the ravages of Tropical Storm Ernesto. The People's Action Movement sees it necessary to continue to dialogue with you on the issues that touch and concern you. We continue to stay true to our country's motto, country above self. Hence, we will continue to champion your cause as you continue to face the harsh realities of life, and so we will always put our people first. Coming at this time, we would obviously do a review of some of the critical areas of failure that we have witnessed over the last 12 months, in particular, and cumulatively over the last 24 months. My deputy political leaders would later in the proceedings add to this presentation on the areas of housing and the impact on crime on our beloved nation. It is our task as a responsible opposition and the alternative government to pay keen attention to the performance of the government so that our citizens and residents can be supported in holding this Drew-led administration accountable. It is common knowledge to all rational, honest, and fair-minded citizens and residents of our beloved Federation that over the past 2 years, the Drew administration has been a dismal failure across the board. Here are the facts. The crime rate. It has skyrocketed since this government took office, with no signs of their being able to bring the number of homicides in particular under control. In 2 short years under the leadership of Dr. Drew, over 50 persons, mostly young men, have lost their lives to gun violence. Just months ago, we witnessed the troubling advice given by the National Security Advisor to the criminals, and I quote, "to catch a plane and leave after you commit a crime." Vehement outrage from the public to sack this advisor fell on deaf ears. Instead, over the ensuing months, he has gone silent under a gag order from all reports, but still being paid from the Treasury, our money. The records will prove that the peace program delivered results. Murders were way down and we felt safe. The Drew-led administration has focused primarily on the compensation aspect of the peace program, when there were so many other aspects to the program. Example, conflict resolution, skills training, entrepreneurial opportunities, community enhancement, and freedom of movement. Now, with no peace, there is literally no peace. We have recorded our 24th murder for the year, just recently, 6 in 1 week. Among them, a 9-year-old, shot execution style, according to reliable sources. With Drew at the helm, brutal, cold-blooded murders are once again the order of the day. Most upsetting in all of this is that he took off on vacation, leaving us to figure our way out of this brutishness. As far as he's concerned, I would have none of it. In fact, I would remove myself as far away from it as I can and soak up some luxuries at a 5-star resort somewhere. The people of St. Kitts and Nevis were never insulted like that for a long time. Healthcare. We hear the horror stories coming out of our health facilities. Critical equipment not working. Shortages in basic medical and other supplies. JNF, a thoroughfare for rodents, with frustrated staff being bullied and threatened daily by supervisors who are drunk with power but short on competence. Under Drew, our health care is in ICU. The Prime Minister's repetitious chorus of "we are building a climate-smart hospital" is all but a feeble attempt to divert attention away from the multiple cross-cutting issues plaguing the JNF. Someone needs to tell the Honorable Prime Minister that even while he plans for the construction of the fancy, state-of-the-art modern hospital as the Minister of Health, he still has an obligation to the people to maintain systems and services that cater to their current health needs and realities, and which address issues, personnel and otherwise, impacting healthcare delivery, whether at JNF or at other hospitals in the Federation. The cosmetic renaming and changing of social programs. This Labour administration's arrogant bunch of novices have no roadmap and are desperately trying to wing it. This is only compounded by their lack of foresight, wisdom, and compassion. In their misguided attempts to discredit and malign the former administration, they hastily disbanded or curtailed critical social safety nets, mislabeling them as either a drain on our treasury, a criminal enterprise, or unsustainable. The fact is that these lifelines put food on the tables of a number of single-parent households, differently abled citizens, and at-risk communities, and allowed them to maintain their dignity. But our people's quality of life does not matter to this heartless gang. Just as the new school year sets to open, the Uniform Assistance Program is next on the chopping block. How ruthless. Forced to suffer the escalating cost of living, spiraling unemployment and murder rates, government's empty promises and no capital projects for job creation, our people are becoming increasingly desperate, frustrated, and angry. Our business owners, too, will admit that the domino effect of no money circulating in the economy has been disastrous. But after 2 years in office, this incompetent, tone-deaf government's only answer to our ongoing agony and woes is to blame the former administration. Moreover, while we endure untold hardships and suffering, they have raised their salaries by thousands of dollars per month. They receive handsome per diems to gallivant all over the globe several times per month, and our Treasury must find $10,000 per month for each of their 40 or 50 so-called advisors. There's money in the Treasury for that. How convenient. After 2 years, the Drew Gang's legacy is one of gaslighting, greed, victimization, incompetence, and indifference to the pain and cries of our nation's citizens. Yet, they have the nerve to claim to love poor people and to be a government for the grassroots. Nothing but self-service, lip service and disservice. That's why many of their own supporters have long conceded that we are indeed far worse off than we were 2 years ago. We must salute these right-thinking patriots who are vocal and unrelenting in their calls to hold these so-called honorable men and women accountable. Our nurses who work under difficult and trying circumstances to keep our health institutions afloat were denied a hefty increase. Our teachers who help to shape and mold the minds of our nation's children have been denied a double-digit salary increase. Our police officers who put their lives on the line to protect and serve have also been denied a 33% increase. How can the Drew-led administration approve a hefty salary increase being on the job for less than 2 years? The cries of many are that this administration has not delivered for the people, but saw it fit to reward themselves. There are so many who have served tirelessly and are yet to feel the financial rewards of their sterling contribution. Our nurses, our teachers, our policemen and women are essential to our society. And before this Drew-led administration rewarded themselves for non-performance, they ought to have paid consideration for the many who have helped this nation to flourish. These men and women work under trying circumstances as they have paid no regard to them. Is this Drew-led administration committed to the welfare of our people? Their actions are disrespectful, inconsiderate, and self-serving. I'm certain that all right-minded citizens are quite unhappy, not just about the increase in salary, but the manner in which it was done. The tactics used in Parliament to deceive the great people of this nation is disgraceful, when so much has been talked about pertaining to integrity in public life, transparency, and good governance. When one looks at the salary increase for the Prime Minister and his cabinet, plus the allowances, this is what we found. The Prime Minister's salary plus allowances was increased from $17,552 to $22,100. This is an increase of 26%, or a dollar amount of $4,550. The Attorney General's salary plus allowances was increased from $15,150 to $20,360, an increase of 34%, or a dollar amount of $5,210. The Deputy Prime Minister's salary plus allowances was increased from $14,700 to $18,910, an increase of 29%, or a dollar amount of $4,210. The other ministers of government salary plus allowances was increased from $13,950 to $17,860, an increase of 28%, or a dollar amount of $3,910. And the senators, their salary was increased from $11,950 to $15,860, an increase of 33%, and a dollar amount of $3,910. So, when you see them smiling and grinning from ear to ear in their photo ops, it is because their salary increases sweep them all in their toes, and after having the country at a standstill since August of 2022, they are smiling straight to the bank. One cannot forget that just days after the Drew-led administration gave themselves a hefty salary increase, 13 employees were fired from SCASPA. We were reliably informed that the cleaning services were outsourced and promises were made for these employees to be rehired. Some of them are still complaining. Recently, one of my colleagues said they do not care. And I have to agree, they do not care. The salary increase was based on a 2019 Salaries Review Commission report that was never used by the previous administration. According to the Salaries Review Commission Act, the commission should be constituted to review salaries every 3 years. Given what the Act provides, that this report was one issued prior to COVID-19, this report was done during better economic times, and the fact that these ministers were in office for a mere 18 months, it would have been wise for them to constitute a new commission and have a review done based on the present realities. Our economy is stagnant. The Drew-led administration has failed to deliver on any single project to help to stimulate the economy. We do not see any jobs being created, no new business creations, or anything that enhances our gross domestic product. The Prime Minister lives in a state-owned house, drives around in a state-owned vehicle, he gets housing allowance, he gets traveling allowance, free water, and free electricity. With less than 2 years in office, and without showing the citizenry that they are worth their salt, they increase their salary. How can any of them feel comfortable knowing that their civil servants, pensioners, are still clamoring for a comfortable position in relation to their finances? The people are not the #1 priority in this country for the Drew-led administration. The Drew-led administration is no longer just playing a game of chess. They are playing a game of deceit with the lives and the futures of the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. Every move that they make reeks of confusion, incompetence, and outright deception. Day after day, when you listen to persons on the different talk shows and you see the different posts on social media, we recognize that persons are waking up to the harsh reality of this administration's true agenda, a power-hungry scheme that has nothing to do with the well-being of the nation. The Drew-led administration have shamelessly revealed its true colors. From the heartless recent termination of 20 employees from the Citizenship by Investment Unit to the outrageous salary increases for ministers, the government has made it clear that they care more about lining their pockets rather than addressing the economic struggles of the ordinary man. The Drew-led government's policies are not just misguided, they are catastrophic. The economic chaos and mental anguish inflicted upon our people by this administration's reckless actions are devastating. Reports are that nearly 3,000 people were unceremoniously dropped from the PAP after they were caught by the Labour Party's empty promise during the election campaign of increasing the support from $500 to providing between $700 to $1,500. Many persons voted for this, and now hundreds of families are facing the unbearable reality of unpaid bills and looming debt collectors. The PAP program, as at the end of March, was replaced by LIFT. In order to be eligible, the combined household monthly income has to be less than $2,500. This was reduced from the previous amount of $3,000. This has effectively removed some households from the program, as it means that less people would qualify. The people are crying out in anger and frustration. Enough is enough. This government must go. One resident described the change to this program as a tap down instead of a tap up. The high cost of living and the increase in food prices is unbearable for the average person. Every sphere of our society is hurting. The low-income earners, the businesses, the farmers. There has been no plan to help our residents and citizens to alleviate the growing problems they have been facing for the last 2 years. Our population is struggling, and the thought of any direction from this government is worrisome. Let us not forget that Dr. Drew pledged to this nation when on the political platform to increase the minimum wage to $500 and increase PAP benefits upwards to $1,500. Our people are still waiting, as our working class persons are struggling to make ends meet. The cap on gas prices at $12 per gallon has never materialized, and this has led to an increase in transportation costs for drivers, resulting in higher living expenses. This Dr. Drew-led administration has done nothing to empower the poor and vulnerable persons in our society. They promised a housing revolution. Look at the disgraceful handling of the East Coast Housing Project. It is an embarrassing symbol of the government's false promises. We are in year 2, and they brazenly declared that they would build 600 smart homes per year. What do they have to show for it? How many homes have been delivered? A pathetic 2. What has happened? Why hasn't Dr. Haney updated the country? The government refuses to come clean about the land deal with East Coast Development. This isn't just delay, it's a blatant betrayal of the people's trust. A glaring example of the government's utter incompetence is the so-called rebuilding of the Bastille High School. Despite all the hype and the fanfare and the photo ops, nothing has materialized. If one were to take a drive up Victoria Road and down Park Range, we know we would not see any construction going on, not even a makeshift housing area for the materials. It is a big heap of nothingness. Nothing is going on there. Nothing has materialized. My alma mater, the old Bastille High School, has been demolished. But where is the new facility? Non-existent. Another school year, and students, parents, and teachers are left in limbo, victims of the Drew-led administration's smoke and mirrors. The people of St. Kitts and Nevis will not be pawns in this sinister game. They are watching with eyes wide open, recognizing the deceit and understanding the dire consequences of this government's actions. This administration is blinded by ignorance. They made the fatal mistake of underestimating the intelligence and resolve of the electorate. We must all agitate for these misfits to do the decent thing. Admit they are lost and adrift, and resign. If they have any decency left in them, they would relinquish the reins of government to proven competent governance that is in the best interest of our people, our federation, and a stable economic future. The end game is near, and the Labour Party has run out of moves. They are entangled in their own web of lies, struggling to contain the growing wave of public outrage. The people have had enough of the broken promises, the shady deals, and self-serving policies. They are ready to call checkmate. Dr. Drew and his team thought they could outmaneuver the people, but they are all so wrong. The electorate refuses to be fooled any longer by the slick talk and empty rhetoric. They demand transparency, accountability, and a government that serves them, not the other way around. The people deserve leaders that stick it out with them during tough times, and not those that spend little to no time in the country or run away when times get rough. In this high-stake chess match of deceit, it's Dr. Drew and his cronies who are cornered with nowhere to run. The people of St. Kitts and Nevis are poised to make the final move, a decisive vote of no confidence in a government that has spectacularly failed them. The People's Action Movement is not just talking for talking's sake. Every day I hear the cries of the ordinary man. I get the messages. People are in need of help. The businesses are crying out. Our communities are hurting. We have a solid plan that we will share at the opportune time. We will not only seek input from our people, but we will also lead the collaboration and execution of groundbreaking policies. PAM will empower communities, reduce crime through an approach that focuses on community policing and engaging youth programs so that we can restore trust in our people and provide alternatives to crime. We will work with our people to create jobs that secure the future of St. Kitts and Nevis and increase economic growth. Our aim is to ensure that healthcare is accessible to all, regardless of your location or class. We have to transform healthcare so that every single man, woman, boy, or girl gets the care they deserve. PAM will revolutionize housing with affordable housing and eco-friendly housing initiatives. With PAM's proven track record of people-centered, patriotic, and progress-driven governance, PAM is the answer to restoring the people's trust and confidence and redeeming our enviable status as a land where peace abounds. The People's Action Movement is our nation's best hope for a return to government by and for our people. Checkmate, Dr. Drew. The game is over. The people of St. Kitts and Nevis are ready for new leadership, leadership that they can relate to, leadership that respects their intelligence, values their voice, and prioritizes their well-being over political power plays. The time for change is now. You have overstayed your welcome. Time is up. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Political Leader, for that comprehensive and concise report card. I think if you were the principal of a high school, I would be afraid of you. Thank you so much, and I believe that not a word that you said was untrue, because people are, in fact, crying out. There is a sharp contrast of people who are happy and seem excited today than what existed 2 years ago. And so clearly, the truth is clear for all to see. Now, having said all that, Madam Political Leader, how do you rate them? Last year we gave them a D. D for dismal, disgraceful, delinquent, dismissive. So today, Madam Political Leader, how do you rate this Labour government's second year in office?
E, forever failing.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I believe that you'll get strong agreement on that. And just to go back a little bit on one particular point that you made concerning social safety net. And we are to remind the viewers, whether they're viewing now or will view this sometime in the future, that these social safety nets were started under a PAM and RP administration. People seem to forget that the exam fees that were paid by government, the school meals or the free lunch as they were called then, and the free textbooks were initiatives that were grounded and had soundness under a People's Action Movement and an RP administration. At a time, and this is so ironic, at a time when the economy in St. Kitts and Nevis was doing way better than it is now. And so to look at what is happening now, where the rug is being pulled from under the feet of many people who are needier now than then because of the sluggishness of the economy, it really makes you wonder if these people understand how governance works. But we shall carry on, and we will make way now for just a 90-second presentation on the areas of focus from the two deputy political leaders, beginning with Mr. Gomes. 90 seconds.
Good evening to everyone, citizens and residents of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Good evening. I join by supporting our political leader, Natasha Shani Gray Brooks, in saying that the People's Action Movement is best suited to lead the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. In fact, over the past 2 years, the people of St. Kitts and Nevis went to the polls to elect a new administration. They elected a new administration. And as we reflect over the last 2 years, I ask you the question, are you any better off than you were 2 years ago? Is it easier for you to go to the supermarket and buy than it was 2 years ago? Is unemployment more or less than it was 2 years ago? Is St. Kitts and Nevis respected internationally more so than it was 2 years ago? Do you feel safer than you did 2 years ago? Do you feel and do you think that the country is doing well as it did 2 years ago? If no, then the people have surely lost, while the Labour Party has won. And I put my attention now to the housing. In 2023, March thereabout, we had an announcement from the NHC indicating to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis that we can expect some 2,400 homes. In fact, they said in a couple months, 2 model homes will be built. They said at the end of the year, 600 homes will be built. In fact, over a year, and we only have 2 model homes. They keep moving the goalposts. They talk about these smart houses as if they have technology far advanced than we do or normally do in St. Kitts and Nevis. In fact, the Labour administration continues to fool the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. If we are to hold their promise true that they can complete these 2,400 homes in their term, then they have 800 homes now to build every year. And so, as I've said before, and as we've reiterated, the Labour administration is failing. Last year we gave them a D, and this year they are failing. Madam Political Leader, the E for effort, I think they're for ever failing. Also, we are on the same page, again, in support of our political leader. And so these are some considerations when we look at the fact that number of persons out there, they are without homes, they were promised homes, and again, an unfulfilled promise by the Labour administration.
Thank you, Deputy Political Leader. You went over the 90 seconds, but we won't charge you. Could we now hear, very briefly, same 90-second rule from the second Deputy Political Leader in PAM, Mr. Lincoln David Pell.
Good evening. My sense of peace to everyone, and I greet you all in the name of Jesus Christ. We are facing a situation where crime is getting out of control. And with that said, all of this in support of what our political leader would have mentioned before. Everything that she mentioned have a link to crime and crime fighting. Because with the failures of so many things and failures of promises, we could have an issue where persons could get out of hand. What I would like us to know and to pay attention to, though, is that crime fighting is everyone's business. I'm not so sure if this administration recognizes that. But I want to draw your memory down the lane, as we will say. Under the previous PAM administration with NRP, I'm just giving history background, crime was very low. And I went through, I did research, and we realized from 2003, it was about 2 decades reference. And they show crime rising up to now. Some persons, a lot of you who are here in the audience and a lot of you who are listening, may not remember or even know PAM was in power for 15 years. But after that 15 years, the Labour administration went in, and crime started to increase under that administration, even up to today. So I just want us to realize, it is not political when it comes to crime, but it's who can manage crime better, who can fight crime better. The People's Action Movement under the political leadership and the Prime Ministership of Dr. Kennedy Simmons respected the police officers, respected their role, and therefore leave it to them to do their thing. The government came up with the policies, the police came up, make sure the laws are there and the Constitution are there to make sure that policy will be effective. I know because I was a part of the police force for a number of years. And I'm going to just give an example so we could understand what I'm talking about. One time, when Dr. Simmons was Prime Minister, one of his sons was wanting to leave his premises with a vehicle. Illegal because he had no license. The police officer stopped him, told him to put it back. When the Prime Minister reached, reported to the Prime Minister, discipline was measured out. In today's world under the previous administration, who knows? Somebody was, it is the Prime Minister's son, but what happened? Dr. Kennedy Simmons is a man of integrity, and he saw it to be important. This is my reputation you're messing up with. So what I'm saying, crime fighting starts with the head, put it this way, the Prime Minister or the head of government. Our Governor General then was Sir Arundel, and he was the same way. So what I'm saying, if we are serious about crime fighting, we must start from the head. I just want to guarantee and let our citizens know, and all who are listening, that the People's Action Movement, then serious about crime fighting, is the same now. And under our political leadership, right here, Natasha Gray Books, we will do the same. Because we know crime can affect our society in many different ways. Business, tourism, education, just development, housing, as my fellow deputy political leader was talking about, and in so many things. And that is why crime fighting needs persons who are serious about crime fighting. I must let everyone know that the police officers know how to fight crime. But all they need is that breathing space to enforce the laws. Some people might say we need more laws. But to be honest, we have so many laws. We don't want to really become a police state so that we can't even look at somebody and it is an offense. And that is what I'm saying. The People's Action Movement is a caring party. Then in government, for 15 years, very careful for the people and the nation, the beloved nation of St. Kitts and Nevis. And under our political leader, Natasha Gray Books, when we elected come the next election, we will demonstrate that once again and even better. So, my friends, this is just the opening. We'll be welcoming every question, and we have a good team to get the work done. We are calling on you to help us to get it done. Because what happened? Crime fighting is everyone's business. And I would like to say, greetings to my constituents. God bless Constituency 7. God bless St. Kitts and Nevis, and peace be to us. So, we're going to answer all these questions with our political leader in a peaceful way because we want peace come to our nation. Our nation is crying.
Thank you, Deputy Political Leader David Pell. And obviously this is a media conference, so we would now make way for the media to ask us questions. The usual is that you identify yourself and your media house that you represent, and we would direct the questions accordingly. Thank you.
Yes, just to recap, Glenn Bart from SKN News 9. Now, based on what the leader of the People's Action Movement has said this afternoon, you would understand that over the past decades, the Labour Party has prided itself in being a party of the masses, a party of the people. Their philosophy has been that they are a grassroots-oriented party. But based on the things you have said this afternoon, are you saying, just for clarity, that there has been a philosophical shift in the ideology of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, that it is no longer about the people, that it's about something else? I would like you to explain that. Deputy Leader Gums, you talked about the housing projects that the Trinidad company is involved in. Based on what you have heard, what you have been able to gather, do you believe that there has been some impropriety carried out in terms of the selection of a company, that company in particular, or what is your view as to why there has been this non-performance based on what you have said?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Bad. Now, I cannot say if the Labour Party has collectively decided whether or not they have changed their philosophical thinking, their ideologies, or whatever. However, what has been demonstrated over the past 2 years has shown that they are disconnected from the people, they are out of touch with reality. Persons have been crying out in different areas. When people go to the supermarket, you recognize that the cost of living has gone up drastically. Yes, there may be different factors. What has this government done to help to alleviate the problems that persons are facing when they go to the cash register? Now, there were social safety net programs where persons who had low income, underemployed, unemployed, disabilities, elderly, some of these persons have been dropped from the program. If there was a program which provided for persons who have an income of $3,000 or less, would benefit from the program, and you have reduced that amount from $3,000 to $2,500, clearly, some persons would not qualify. And so, if it is a number of persons are going to be disadvantaged from the program, and the government does not care about it, they did not do anything to prevent that, then that has been a shift from the people. When we have the school program, the uniforms program, it's now limited to persons who are low-income earners, single-family homes. What about somebody who's making $450 a week and they have house rent to pay, they have their children to look after, they have food to buy, but they're still struggling? Has any consideration been given to those persons? And so you have persons who are now losing their jobs. Just last week, 20 persons, at least from our reports, have been terminated. Now, I received a letter which indicated that these persons would be given first preference in terms of getting an interview. No guarantee that they will be hired. How do you explain to someone who has a mortgage? Every month they have to meet the bank. Every morning when they wake up, they have to look their children in the eye. Every night they have to wonder, what are they going to feed them? How do you look at least 20 persons in the eyes and tell them, oh, here is 3 months' pay in lieu of notice? You're entitled to severance, but your severance is not included in the package. How do you tell these persons? Because these persons have families. They have responsibilities to meet. And if it is a caring government can send home at least 20 persons and within 2 days advertise positions in excess of, and so are you saying that these positions were made redundant, these persons were sent home, but now they miraculously appear, and you're asking these persons to reapply? They will be given first preference in terms of being interviewed, no guarantee that they're going to be hired, and some of them have lost the opportunity of getting their gratuity. So is that a government that is in touch with the people? I think not. And any right-thinking person would agree with me that things are not the same. Construction is down. I mean, I'm a lawyer. I have clients who deal with debt collection, and they're calling me, what is happening? Persons are not paying. I thought maybe it was COVID, but clearly it's not COVID. It's Drew and his team that has affected and impacted the growth of this economy, the standard of living of our people, and we have to say that they are not in touch. They are out of touch with the people. So if that means a shift in what they thought was the connection with the grassroots, then maybe that's the shift.
Thank you for your question, Mr. Bart. And thank you, political leader, in fact, you made mention as to why this company. And I think that many of us who heard the ministers from the Labour government speak about the East Coast company and the East Coast being in charge of the construction of these homes, many of us asked, well, don't we have local contractors capable and competent to do just that, build the homes that are needed for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis? You ask my view on the non-performance, and I say, as I've said before, this administration simply do not care. This administration believes in telling the people sweet lies. Anything that sounds good, whether it is realistic or not. And so I am not surprised as to the non-performance. What I'm saying is that we have a St. Kitts and Nevis, an economy, and we know the importance of construction. Construction stimulates the economy, and right now, we have seen, as the political leader has indicated, numerous people are asking for the economy to be stimulated. We have persons who are in need of homes. They talk about the 2 model homes that have been built, and they tout it as it's an accomplishment, when in fact, it's only 2 out of the 2 model homes where they still have 2,400 homes to build. We look at the purpose of NHC. And the purpose of NHC is to provide persons who are not as fortunate with the opportunity to homes. We're not seeing that happening. And although they boast about the 2 model homes that have been built, there are persons out there who are in need of homes who aren't so happy, who aren't so satisfied. And while they boast about these 2 model homes, there are contractors out there, persons in the construction industry, who are saying, we could have done just as good a job or better. And while they boast about these 2 model homes and the smart homes, the contractors, the local contractors are saying that this technology is nothing new. And so all we have been given by the Labour administration is nothing but sweet lies. The things that they want to tell you that they think you want to hear, but have no intention of fulfilling.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Political Leader. There's another question on the floor.
We'll talk with Lavi. My question is to Ms. Shani Gray, the leader of the party. Many have lost confidence in the politicians. How can you convince the people your team will bring the change needed for the people and the country?
Thank you, Ms. Davis. Now, I think once we focus on the people's interests, the people's concern, and have constant dialogue with them, we will be in tune to what is happening. And that is the problem sometimes, that persons feel that they elect someone to represent them and they can't get in touch with them. They move out of their constituency, they change their telephone number, they have their calls being screened, and a lot of what our society is facing is something that is familiar, with the People's Action Movement. We understand when persons are in need of empowerment. We understand when persons are in need of being able to own their own home. I have lived in a community where persons are engaged in different types of lifestyle. And so you see persons on a day-to-day basis who are experiencing the harsh realities of life, whether it is because of some disability, finances, whether it is even our crime situation. You understand some of the challenges. And I think that has been the problem for some time, because there has been a disconnect. There has been persons who are not understanding what people are facing. They don't understand how to deal with them. And communication is key, because you can't come to a community or the electorate 2 months before an election and then go back to them 4 years after. Now, some persons think that, oh, if you put a policy in place, that is consultation, that is communication. The people want to feel their representatives. They want to hear from them. They want them to understand their needs. And the People's Action Movement has always been, not just now, has always been about putting people first, and we will not shift or move away from that under my leadership, because if it is, we are shifting, then we are taking the people out of our name, and we are all about the people.
Thank you, Madam Political Leader. There's a question here concerning agriculture and whether or not, and I guess this could be addressed by the Deputy Political Leader, Gomes, who has been, very, very careful to assess the ministers on the performance or on the well-meaning performance from time to time. So this question has to do with whether our party has any confidence that this 25 by 25 target would be met, considering that we are months away from 2025. And perhaps as context, you can explain for the benefit of those who don't know what this 25 by 25 concept is.
Yes. Well, when we look at the 25 by 25 agenda, as you've indicated, Madam PRO, it is clear that we will not be able to achieve it. And it talks about 25% of what we produce being able to be exported.
I think it's a reduction
of
imports by 25%.
Yes,
agricultural imports by 25%.
Yes, it is the reduction of agricultural imports by 25%. Yes, it is. And so when we look at the agenda and we look at what the government is doing in relation to that, it is clear that that doesn't seem to be one of the goals that will be fulfilled. In fact, just recently, I spoke about it. I looked at some articles whereby the Minister of Agriculture, he spoke about the 25 by 25 agenda. He spoke about the construction of greenhouses in order to get the imports down in that particular area. When looking at the infrastructure in the, I think it was the Newgrong area, and he spoke about 15 greenhouses being built. That is going to be great. It's going to look good. Again, very posh language, very enticing language. But when we look at the fact that these greenhouses were mentioned last year, but none of them in Newgrong have been completed. It's 4 months away. And so when we think about the 25 by 25 agenda and the reduction of the imports, it is very, very unlikely that this objective will be met.
And then as a follow-up, there was something that says that there seems to be a disconnect with the farmers and the Ministry of Agriculture and the agriculture policy makers in general, and basically asking what is our party intending to do to assist those farmers who seem to be crying in the wilderness, in the literal wilderness for a long time.
Well, the farmers have been speaking. In fact, based on a show that I host, we have a show called it's called Farm Report, and on the Farm Report, farmers have indicated the lack of consultation between them and the Ministry of Agriculture. They have said that they have presented a number of plans. These plans are ignored. In fact, when you listen to the farmers carefully, They seem as a body that know exactly what they want and what they want to achieve. But we see, again, the Ministry of Agriculture ignoring the plights of these farmers. We see, again, the Ministry of Agriculture, just like the government, not paying keen attention to what is necessary and needed. In fact, when you look at the 25 by 25 agenda, there were certain crops, if my memory serves me correctly, that were selected as these would be the 25 reduction imports based on these crops. And the farmers, when they came to the program and they speak about the selection of these crops, many of them said they weren't even consulted as to the selection of these crops. And so it is very disheartening to see that the government continues to toot this whole agenda, 25 by 25 agenda, but yet without little or no consultation by those persons whom they are to serve.
Madam Pio, just to add, one of the key things that Mr. Gum said is consultation. And you have to understand what is lacking in the ministry. I mean, with the onset of COVID-19, we understand that food security is important, and we ought to be able to put enough into our farmers and agricultural sector to be able to feed our nation. And so the People's Action Movement will be meeting shortly with the Farmers Consortium to understand the plight, to see what it is they need assistance in, where we can lend a listening ear, give guidance, and be able to champion their cause, because we have to be able to feed our nation. And if the government has an issue in terms of providing for the nation, then that is a problem. And so in preparation for entering into government, we are going to meet with the Farmers Consortium very shortly so that we can understand what is needed in the Ministry of Agriculture.
Madam Moderator, can I just say something? I don't know if any one of us here remember, in the PAM administration, agriculture was a very important part. We used to export things to St. Martin. We even had some farmers who used to focus solely on pineapple. I don't know if you all remember that. What I'm simply saying here, the People's Action Movement is a party that cares for the development of our people and our nation, therefore create every avenue for that to happen. Agriculture is such one thing. The records are there. And we, under our leader, will bring that back and even better. Because if we go back in time, we'll realize from when the agriculture sector started to deteriorate, and that we are today. And the People's Action Movement will bring back agriculture and let our agriculturists, our farmers, if you want to put it that way, benefit, because what happened, just like the bigger countries where you have multimillionaires in farming, our farmers used to do that then, and the People's Action Movement is going to cause them or allow them to do it again. So I just wanted to bring that clear so that people could understand the People's Action Movement is a party that's really interested in the development of these people, to make them wealthy, because they claim we have 4,000 cell rights and things, and that is why. Even when sugar was in and sugar went out during the dull season, different crops were in. I'm sure some of us in this room will remember that. So I just wanted to bring that up and let everyone know, and our political leader, these things, because we have the answers. And these things will be start happening again, and our farmers will benefit. So we are looking forward to meet the consortium, as our political leader says. Yeah. And trust me, when we reach in power, you will see a big difference.
Yes, and also too, when we look at the 25 by 25 agenda and the aim to reduce food imports by 25% by 2025, we have to recognize that this is a CARICOM initiative. This is an initiative by CARICOM, and oftentimes I ask the question, is it that the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, does the Ministry of Agriculture have a national plan? Because although we want to be in line with what the region is doing, if it is unrealistic for us, and we look at the fact that we have 4 months before the end of 2025, we must start to think about what is our national plan. If we don't achieve the 25 by 25 agenda, what can we do as citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis? What national plan can we craft to ensure that the agricultural industry is not in a worse off position?
Thank you. There's another question on the floor.
Okay, once again, my name is Laverne Davis, and I'm representing the grassroots We'll Talk with Lavi. Mr. Lincoln Pell, I've been listening to you, and I realized that you kept going back in time of the previous administration. But how would you be able to connect with the people of this present generation?
Very good question, my friend. There's a saying every time you come around, I think is Black History Month, right? If we do not know our past, we do not know where we're going. And it's the same way with politics. If we do not know, and I must then say government, if we do not know the history of our government's performance and how they provide for our people, we will have a problem going forward. If you listen to every country globally, every major party always speak about what their party did in the past. And that is why I'm saying a lot of people in St. Kitts and Nevis, especially those who are, let's say, 30 years, 35, don't even know PAM was in power. But you know what the unfortunate thing is? Some persons who are overall will say all politicians and all political parties are the same. But they're a group of people who never, ever experience the People's Action Movement in action. They see things, they're benefiting from them, but they do not even realize it's the People's Action Movement put them there. Like my political leader, and the deputy here mentioned, the foundation, just like when you're building a house. If you do not have a good foundation, how can you go even 15 stories high? That's what the PAM party did. And that is why I have to go back in the past. I leave it for my political leader to speak of the future. I'm leaving it to my deputy here to speak of the present. But I want to remind persons that the People's Action Movement is the responsible for even Port Zante. I mentioned about our agriculture have gone down, but under PAM, when we had the sugar industry, even when we had a dull season, farming was good. And you know what happened? It boils into crime fighting as well. Because when people are occupied, don't take it from me. Those of us who go to church, you know, it's in the Bible. When you are occupied physically and mentally, you have no room to, we have a lot of monkeys here, to monkey around. Let me use that word, to monkey around. We don't have any room because monkeys like to play. And you see, that's what is happening here with this government. They're just playing around with agriculture and a lot of things. And also, the Bible speaks about the toiling of the soil. How can we reduce the importation of food? How can we have food security when we do not farm? We are a farming nation. We have rich soil. That is why, under the British, you know what they said about St. Kitts. I don't have to. We have history, so we leave it for the history teachers to teach our young people. But from a political point of view, that is why I keep going to the past. Because there are a lot of persons, even our national hero, Dr. Kennedy Simmons, he walked down the road, some people don't know him. And that's a problem. He's alive. Why wait until he dies? And that is why I want to take the responsibility to remind our people, the older ones, and to inform the younger ones that a lot of things that they're seeing, unfortunately, is not going as good as how it should be, but PAM started it. Southeast Peninsula, PAM. Even the airport, PAM. Education, the revolution in education, PAM. The schools, PAM, but unfortunately, 20 years of the former Labour administration did nothing to maintain the schools. And even to today, we had the Barcia High School. We even now have a present situation with the Kayan High School. Are these schools going to be ready for when school open? Are they going to be safe? And all these things could boil down to crime fighting, because you know what? I even heard our Prime Minister talk about crime is a medical thing, mental thing. Public health issue. Crime is not necessarily but the effects of it can be. Because if you get unstable up here because of the situation you're facing, you can go and commit crime. And the People's Action Movement want to prevent crime. So I want to end there and so I hope I answer your question, my friend, to let you know that is why I'm going back to the past. Because a lot of persons do not understand how caring PAM is. Remember, our Constitution was drawn upon the PAM. You know what it says? Our national anthem, our Constitution, you know what it speaks about freedom of people, movement and the development and these kind of things. But what happened? It seems as if you forget. So, I am here to remind us what it is. Because our party means that it wants to see the best for its people and for the best for our beloved nation.
If I might add specifically to that question, Ms. Davis, I think the point that Mr. David was trying to make and did make stated that even some of those things that were foundational are still happening today. And so young people can still connect from the fact that the PAM in the 1980s started to pay exam fees, started the school feeding program, started the free textbook program, from which they're still benefiting today. And it would be interesting because for all, obviously, we're talking about 2 generations now that this happened. So perhaps the young people now benefited, as did their parents. As a matter of fact, there was actually a post on Facebook that was saying that our party does not speak sufficiently about some of these foundational social safety nets, so much so that the person made the observation that they are certain that the current set of ministers in government benefited from these exam fees and the school meals and the free textbooks. And since these are still in place, effectively we can say that future generations are continuing to benefit from those foundational ideas and work from the PAM in the 1980s. So there is always a connection. There's certainly no disconnection where that is concerned. But thank you for bringing that question to the panel. I also had another question here that I guess our political leader can deal with about the dividends and whether or not, this person is asking whether or not we are willing to accept the Prime Minister's excuse that he had to, did he say that he had to set aside the funds that were originally intended to be paid as dividends to I guess, as a hurricane safety net sort of payment. And as a consequence, the poor lady in St. Paul's who was relying on the funds to buy her blood pressure and diabetes medication, the poor man in Fig Tree in Sandy Point who was hoping to get this $500 to supplement his electricity payment now has not received a payment for the year. So the question really is whether or not PAM has accepted the excuse that the Prime Minister has tabled about the non-payment for the dividends.
Now, as the Prime Minister, he would have knowledge in terms of what is currently in the Treasury and what is there in relation to the CBI revenue. We all are aware that the revenue has dropped significantly. There are a number of challenges in relation to the program, and right now we are seeing that there is a lawsuit. And so I think having the information in relation to the CBI unit and the necessary receipts or revenue that program is now gaining or netting for the country, the Prime Minister recognized the reality of the situation. He recognized that what he thought was something that he could have done outside of government, he recognized that it is a problem. And he knew that he would have to break this election promise that he had to the people, but he had to find a reason, a viable reason. And sometimes hurricane is a safety net for the Labour government. Unfortunately, I mean, we don't like hurricanes, but some people like when they come because they can use that as an excuse. However, I think that the Prime Minister ought to have been honest with the people, tell them what the problems are with the CBI, tell them the challenges that the country is facing so that they can understand, well, yes, I said this on the platform when I was out of government, but the harsh reality is the program has been impacted significantly and our revenue stream has gone down and we just can't do it. Whatever the reason is, be honest. But I honestly don't accept the reason that he gave to the nation because so many people have been relying on it. It is things that people voted for. Yes, people jumped up and voted and said, yes, they want the CBI dividend. And so whether it was 500 or 250, I think at one point in time, $1,000 was paid, people were looking on it. So they know that something is going to come in June, something is going to come in December. June, we have music festival, we have persons preparing for these children going back to school in September. December is a time when people try to make themselves happier, try to bring smiles on the faces of their children. And when they're looking for that coming this December, I don't know what excuse Prime Minister is going to give, because the hurricane season ends in November.
Glenn Bart, SK Newsline, and he sort of preempted my next question in the sense that I want to talk about the Citizenship by Investment program. The Prime Minister, coming into office, said that it would be one of these most challenging endeavors. Now, with all of the external threats coming from the European Union with regards to the program, and other external factors, do you think that the Prime Minister or the administration as a whole has tackled the challenges, the issues of the CBI in the most effective manner? In other words, could they have done a little better to reduce the impact? In other words, not lowering the income so much so that they can't pay the dividend. Comment on that, please.
Now, Mr. Barr, thank you for your question. As I would have indicated, going into office, the Prime Minister would have had an opportunity to review what has happened in relation to the CBI. I think time and time again, persons have been waiting to find out how many passports have been issued, what revenue have we gained, and sometimes the questions are not directly answered. And because there was a level of withholding information from the first instance, it's kind of hard right now for them to be forthright. And so without being as honest as they had ought to be in the first instance, it now puts them in a difficult position in able to tackle some of the challenges. Because had they been honest from the beginning, from the get-go, they would have been able to tell persons that we have some issues, the external threats are there, we don't want to be blacklisted or grey-listed, and so we have to put certain things in place, we have to tighten our belt, we have to put these measures in place to protect our country. What it took for certain things to come out was a lawsuit. And it's unfortunate because I shudder to think what may happen to our banking industry based on the result of what is about to transpire. And persons ought to be honest, because we jumped and said all kind of things when we are the platform. Maybe sometimes they get carried away. But when you settle down, when the dust has settled and you recognize this is the situation, be honest with the people, because it's going to come back to bite you. And here we have a situation where our federation may crumble, and I don't want that to happen, because it's not just going to affect me and you, it's going to affect our children and our grandchildren. And I know that our nation can't take any more right now. And so all has not been done that ought to be done. I think communication is something that is very important for me. And if it is that constant dialogue, there's a monthly press conference. Tell the people what is happening. There is, I think, round table or blue table or some kind of table that the Prime Minister has. Tell the people. He comes on the radio from time to time. Tell the people, have a program specifically in relation to CBI. Let the developers know what is happening. Let the people know what is happening. Let the agents know what is happening, so that persons can be properly informed and understand the challenges that the country faces, as opposed to getting some shock from a lawsuit. And I think, maybe in hindsight, he would have done things differently. But again, maybe it's what advice he got.
And as the political leader speaks about his advice, there was a statement made by one of the Prime Minister's political advisors. In fact, when persons just ask them to commit, to carry out their promise, they come and they lash at the people. They tell them they have a mindset of entitlement, when in fact they were the ones who campaigned on promises yet delivered. They campaigned on promises yet delivered. The Prime Minister told the people that they can expect up to $1,500 under the PAP program if elected. What did he do? No $1,500. In fact, I am told there has been a reduction. Some households are getting $250. And when the threshold was $3,000, he reduced it. So now, once you make $2,500 or more, you don't get it. And so what we have is a situation where the Prime Minister has promised during campaign mode, and now that he's in government, he has failed to deliver on those promises. But yet, when the people question him on what he promised, we the people have a sense, a mindset of entitlement.
Thank you for those two responses. I have another observation or comment here from a virtual viewer who is basically observing that from the passage of tropical storm Ernesto, it is clear that our infrastructure is aging and crumbling, and perhaps it is reason to take a serious look at what is happening, because if it was just a tropical storm, I think this is what the person is trying to say. If just a tropical storm has placed the electrical infrastructure under such strain, then what would happen if it were a category 1 or 2 or 3 or maybe 5 hurricane, as we've seen in the Windward Island recently? And it is interesting that this comment is coming now, because I had a conversation today with somebody who told me that even before the passage, 2 days before the passage of Tropical Storm Ernesto, there was actually a community in Bastille, in West Bastille, Buckley to be exact, that had not had electricity for 2 days. Electricity nor water. And still after the passage of Ernesto, have not had neither electricity nor water. And who is the Minister for Constituency number 3 with the portfolio for infrastructure? So it is something that we need to think about, because it is a frightening thought that one day we may wake up and find that we cannot provide a sufficient supply of electricity, of power, because our infrastructure is aged and old and can't take the demand. I don't know if the person is trying to ask what PAM would do in the next 3 years or sooner.
Madam Piaro, firstly, I would like to at least thank the hard-working staff of SCELEC and the Water Department. Some of them came out during challenging times. They left their families, and they were able, at least from the last check, to restore some of the power. However, they can only work with what they have. And it is the responsibility of the government to ensure that assessments are carried out in the different communities to see what is the strength and tenacity of the infrastructure, so that if there has to be some sort of work done in the different areas, whether it is a national effort, as we do it over a phased approach, there has to be that assessment. You get the necessary technical persons to come in and look at what we have. How long have they been replaced? What has been happening over the years? What can they withstand? Because I'm glad it was just a tropical storm, because I know some persons are in some areas that they always get impacted by water or electricity being going. And so you find that we need to really look at what we have as a country, look at where we can get the necessary help and assistance, and get the technical persons to give us a proper plan to put the necessary infrastructure in place. And you said maybe that's what the person wanted to ask. As the next Prime Minister, I would have a very hard task at hand, because I would have to be able to look out at the whole layout of the land. And my team and I would have to ensure that we do the necessary investigative work to see what is in place. We have to make sure that what we have in place is sufficient and strong enough to support the people that are here in the Federation. And we will do the necessary assessment. From the outside looking in, it's hard to say what is there, how much work needs to be done, but there is a pledge to make sure that we carry out all the necessary assessments so that we can have proper infrastructure in place.
I think that Tropical Storm Ernesto really gave us a guide as to how prepared we are as a nation. We often hear about hurricanes as being in the Caribbean. We are prone to them. And oftentimes when hurricanes divert and don't hit us directly, there are some persons who, very few persons, some feel disappointed because they want the rain and they want the thunder. But I think Tropical Storm Ernesto really taught us that we can't, at this point in time, withstand on what we have currently, the aftermath of a real devastating hurricane. What I am concerned about, though, is that we have an administration that's not proactive. And so are they looking at the damage and trying to come up with a solution, or to prevent damage if we were to get an even greater storm? I am not convinced, based on their track record, that they are proactive. And in fact, I think that they do not care enough for the people who elected them.
I'd just like to mention here that the persons, the electricity and everybody, the utility workers and so forth, they did a good job. They did what they can with what they have. But I want to, my good friend asked about why you keep going in the past. In the past, we had wooden houses. You all remember that? And they stand some severe hurricanes. So it's not, and we used to get some kind of often. You all remember that? We used to get some hurricanes often. But what happened during the PAM time, they talk about caring. They let the people do what they have to do, and they provided what they wanted. And that's the difference. What is happening now? Remember, 20 years we had the Labour administration. And this, I'm just showing you where the breakdown started. So it's not just now. And it's the same Labour party government is there again. So what I'm saying, the People's Action Movement is careful. They understand what it is to maintain things to let them last longer. They understand what it is to provide the funds when needed to make sure things are done correctly. We even spoke about the CBI program, just to come after that to let you see. It started under PAM. It seems as if you forget that. And all this controversy that we're talking about, it was never there. What I'm saying, they made someone ask about what are the differences between the party for party change. What I'm saying is the vast difference between the People's Action Movement and the Labour Party. And even to a greater extent, the People's Labour Party as well. The People's Action Movement is the best party to govern this country, to maintain it, because we know over the years, we know we have qualified persons here to do the job. But sometimes to leave them to let them do the job is a problem. But from history, the People's Action Movement provide the resources and leave the persons who are the expert in what they do or in their field to do what they're supposed to do. And therefore, I know when our political leader become president, as you were prime minister, you will see a difference. We're not saying we're going back into the past, but like I said, coming back to Black History Month, if we do not know our past, certainly we're going to have a problem knowing our future. And sometimes you can always go around and end up right where you started if you don't be careful. And that is why I want to bring the past so people could understand what happened then could happen again and happen better. Anything bad that happened, like the crime situation, like a couple days ago we had 2 persons, that should never happen again. That's too many. We are losing people. We talk about the young is our future, and this is what we're talking about. The People's Action Movement is caring enough, have the ideas enough, and proactive enough to solve the situations that we're having now. And our political leader here, with her team, and with the support of the people, because remember, all of what we're talking here depends on each and every one of us.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Political Leader. We have a few minutes left to wrap up, so if they are, okay, I'll allow this other question from Mr. Bart.
I want to talk about the relationship between Nevis and St. Kitts. Now, the Prime Minister has been pushing the sustainable island state agenda since taking office. Along that line is the issue or the matter of energy, sustainable energy in the form of geothermal energy, and that's where Nevis comes in. As a political party, if you were to take the reins of government in the next election, is there going to be a shift in the current understanding, working relationship that's going on between the CCM and the Labour Party at the moment? There's a tendency that when political parties change, when governments change, good programs go out the window and other programs come in. Although it is said that government is continuous, in reality, for the most part, many things change. So from the PAM perspective, what will be the relationship between the island of Nevis and St. Kitts in terms of, 1, the sharing of revenues, 2, the development of the geothermal project, and 3, just generally the cohesiveness between both islands, even in terms of tourism and infrastructure development? The other question I want to ask really concerns the crime situation. The Prime Minister indicated that consultation will be taking place in a very short time. And you have been saying, Mr. Pell, that PAM has worked with this crime situation in a different way. But a lot of things have changed, really, in society. And I gather it's a lot more difficult today than it was 10, 15 years ago. What then would be your approach, pragmatically, in terms of addressing the issue, how you would address it, who would be involved, that kind of thing? I want to hear your thoughts on that.
Okay, so I'm going to take it from the last question with the crime fighting. You know, there's nothing new. It's just that it comes at a time when you have different generation. So I'm going to read out some things here. This is what a study was done in the the College of Police UK research. What works? Policing reduce crime. This is something recently, and it was in I get it from the website, the 23rd of July, 2024. Reducing crime through policing involves a combination of strategies that are supported by research and evidence. 1, targeted policing. In the past, the same thing they used to do. They might have just called it another name or didn't call it a name. Target, the areas that you have crime. That's from the past. Community policing. I'm sure you could remember when the police used to play dominoes, football. As a matter of fact, one time in St. Kitts, police used to participate in every single sporting activity they had here until police had their own sports. You remember that? Community policing. Nothing new, just different names. That's all the police has to do. Problem-oriented policing. Ivan Hanley, back then, Stanley Franks, Robert Jeffords, all those persons in policing. I'm sure you know some of those names, how they used to target people. Nothing new, same, different name. What I'm saying, the police know what to do. But sometimes it's unfortunate, I'm a politician now, sometimes politicians get in the way, and that is why I keep saying, the People's Action Movement is very good at letting the police do what they have to do. Give them the resources. If they want vehicles, provide them. They need money to buy whatever, they provide it. So policing is not the same. And this is something from 2024. And you realize, and you answer well because you understand, and some of us here know what used to happen with the police back then. But you know what is very important and what would have lost over a number of years? Familiarity, when it comes to policing, helps to prevent crime. I don't know if you realize there are some countries who have a lot of police from different areas. Or I don't know you, come go back home or whatever. That could be a problem. But if I know you, and I see your son doing something, hey, sir, don't do that. It's prevention. The other thing we have here is proactive policing. Remember when you have police downtown with the white helmet? Every corner you look, you see a police officer? What are you seeing now? Are you seeing that now? What I'm saying? Nothing new from the past. That's all we have to do. Put back the police on the street. They could have the vehicles, but now and then they come out and walk. We talk about fair and respectful treatment. Back in the past, what used to happen? The police respect you, you respect the police. No one even wanted to dare to pass the police station riding wheelie in our support of what's happening now. Respect. Nothing new. It's the old. All we have to do is let our people know, respect the laws of our land, respect the police officers because they're enforcing our laws. Even for the criminals, the police have to protect their rights. That's all it is. Nothing new. I hope I'm answering your question. I'm just letting the general public know, and everyone who's listening, the People's Action Movement over the years, they let the police police the state. They give the laws wasn't sufficient. Now people are calling for more and more laws. What are we going to become a police state? And then we might have so much laws that you might even be afraid to look at someone because there might be a crime. When these things can be solved. Another thing we have here, deterrence. The police itself, or any officer should go down the road, the way he presents him or herself should be a deterrence. I mean, you know how it used to be. Boots well shine, well dressed, cap well shine. That in itself is a deterrent because I see a police officer look really sharp like Gishard. I don't know where they get the term from. But sharp, respectable, looking. People respect that. And they would be afraid to come in. Nothing new. And this is from 2024. And the police, I'm sure you used to remember when the police have well-shined boots, well-starched uniform and everything. Like they don't want to bend and everything. That's what I'm talking about. There's nothing new about it. There's some, and even to today, if you look at some police officers, they get more respect than others because of what I'm talking about right here. So what I'm saying, this is just an example. I don't want to take too much time, but I just want to give the information that at the end of it all, it is nothing new. It might be from the past, as you mentioned, on what we cannot do, but it's nothing new. Because if you revamp everything and bring everything new, you might have a problem because you might remove something that is relevant and was actually effective. Just like what on the Team Unity we have the peace program, it might not have been fully effective what people might want to talk about, but at least it was reaping some results. And our political leader spoke about it, and our deputy political leader, and what is the results? What I'm saying, the People's Action Movement will also be involved and make sure we get things in place.
All right, just to add quickly on the issue of crime, the Prime Minister spoke about the consultation. We have heard no dates. At least as a political party, we have not gotten any formal correspondence from the Ministry of National Security or the Prime Minister as the head. And so if it is that this is just another talk shop, that we're going to have consultations, we will take charge on that, because we have to ensure that our country is safe and in better hands. On the issue that you spoke of in relation to the relationship between Nevis and St. Kitts, the People's Action Movement has shown from when we were in government, 1980 to 1995, that the people of St. Kitts and Nevis function better under a PAM-led administration. That has happened before in the past. It has happened not just in 1980 and 1995. Under our former Deputy Prime Minister, we had a working relationship with the Nevis Island administration, and that will continue. The nation of St. Kitts and Nevis thrives better when PAM is involved. So whether it is geothermal, whether it is revenue sharing, or the development of a sustainable island state, whatever we have to do to protect our country, to ensure that our people are put first, we will do it. Now, Nevis has gone ahead of us in relation to geothermal. We can get some information in terms of what has been done. I know there's a plant, and we can work together to make St. Kitts and Nevis the best area when it comes to green energy. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. If it is, we are going to have to put certain things in Nevis in place and put certain things in St. Kitts in place. Then we work with what we have, build on it, and make sure the nation as a whole works together for the betterment of our country.
I just want to quickly add, thank you, political leader. I just want to quickly add that as it relates to crime, the People's Action Movement actually wrote to the government of St. Kitts and Nevis on January 18, 2024. In fact, we realized that the number of homicides the previous year had been up to 31. And so we asked for an audience with the government. And let me just read a line from the response that we got. It says, "While I am unaware of any precedent where such a meeting between a political party and government entity of this nature has ever occurred, it is out of respect for our personal relationship of over 20 years that I initially agreed to meet with you as a representative of your party." This is from the Permanent Secretary of within the Prime Minister's office, and this was the response that we received after writing, and I was the one who signed the letter as the chairman then. And so one has to ask the question, is the government really serious? Is the Labour administration really serious in meeting with us as stakeholders? Because there was an open invitation. He mentioned a national symposium on crime, but we all know how these national symposiums on crime go. You go there, there's a number of groups, so many things to discuss, so short a time to discuss them. And so what we have been proposing is to meet with the government and to have focus group attention where we can exchange ideas in a closed environment much longer than a crime symposium and in a more conducive manner. I think it was just another one of the talk shops to say that we ticked a box for the Labour administration. They're not serious about anything. They're not serious about crime. They're not serious about the economy. And in fact, their actions have shown that they just do not care.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Political Leader. I may as well keep you on the floor as we wrap up and have you do your wrap now. As it relates to housing, I'm sure there might be a few pointers that you did not get to insert in your original presentation. Neither were there questions related to housing specifically. And in that wrap-up, I want you to include in it, if you will, the Prime Minister's assertion that they had to go back to the drawing board insofar as the size of the houses were concerned, because post-plan, post-implementation, somebody probably, a light probably went off in somebody's head that said, oh, well, we did not go to the people, and we're not sure the people are comfortable with the size houses. And so suddenly, they had to go back to the drawing board per the Prime Minister, and in doing so, it meant that they also had to re-evaluate the cost of the homes, which would be very interesting, because your first launched it at a particular price point, and if you're saying now that the prices have changed, then you're also going to impact people's ability to get these mortgages. So if you could just incorporate those 2 points in your wrap-up on housing.
No problem. Thank you so much, Madam Piaro. In fact, they call themselves the A-team. During the general election, they were all called the A-team. But in fact, they have not shown any level of expertise. They have not consulted with the people on numerous projects and plans that they have. You look at the fact, again, the Madam Piaro, you highlighted the fact that they had these homes presented to the people, and the people then had to tell them, we don't like them, they're ugly, they don't look good. And that's when they went back to the drawing board. They keep going back to the drawing board because of lack of consultation. We look at the fact that we have here now the homes, 2 model homes built. We haven't heard any information as to when the other houses, the actual 2,400 houses are going to be built. Again, I indicated that if we are going to look within the period in which they have left, they have 800 per year to build. If they couldn't build 2 in almost 2 years, how are they going to build 800? Well, 2,400 in all in 3 years, unlikely. When I look at the administration, again, I have graded them a F this year. Last year I gave them a D. I thought that they were just deceitful, deceptive, delusional, but in fact they really don't care. And so they have not shown any care or concern for the people in whom they serve. And I ask the question again as I conclude. Since the 2022 election, are we better off than we were 2 years ago? Is it easier for us to go and buy things in the supermarket than it was 2 years ago? Is there more or less unemployment in the country than there was 2 years ago? Is St. Kitts and Nevis internationally respected as it was 2 years ago? Do you feel that this government is on the right track? Do you feel safer at home? Do you feel safe on the streets? If you do not believe that we are going along the right direction, then in fact, in 2022, the Labour Party won, but we, the people, lost.
Thank you, Mr. Political Leader. I thought there was another, I was waiting for another punch, but maybe it would have knocked me out. So it probably was good that you stopped there. Mr. Deputy Political Leader, again, as you make your rap about crime, I did say that our intention is not just to criticize, because that is going to be one of the pushback from people. So tell us what you'll do differently. So in your wrap-up on crime, I want you to insert a solution or two from your perspective as a security personnel, a trained security personnel, that can be a quick win for government. And let them know that this advice doesn't cost them $10,000.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, I just want to mention that the People's Action Movement respect our Constitution, and therefore, the relationship between St. Kitts and Nevis, as our political leader say, the Constitution mentioned that, and we'll stick to that. Also, when it comes to crime, we will touch and control the trend of crime. There are many things we can do. One, it needs effective leadership, and that's what the People's Action Movement will be given to the crime fighting. 3, we will make sure that we analyze everything, let the police do the job to analyze what is causing the escalation in crime. Some of them are mentioned in here, and we will make sure we create jobs. Job creation is very important. Put the people back to work. Let people who want to get into business start businesses. These are just some of the things that the People's Action Movement will do. Because you know what? The police can only do as much. But if the people themselves recognize there is no need for crime, that's good. All the police have to do is to ensure that the laws are followed. Yes, people want the police to enforce the laws, but informing the persons as well of what they have to do. We have to also, what we're going to do as a political party, is let the leaders of the law enforcement persons be responsible for leading those things. Yes, our party as government will get involved in supporting but they have to do their thing. These are just some of the things that we are talking about. I do not have much time, so I can't go too much into detail. But to let the police, the defense force, and all those law enforcement agencies do their job, and we will give them this necessary support that they deserve. One, we will let persons understand that our government is dependable. You can depend on us. You have your concern, you have the crime. We'll let you make sure we have the policies based on the constitution and the laws to make sure the police enforce them and we get them sorted out. Those are just some of the things we're going to do. Then we want to make sure the community is fully engaged. We're going to do outreach. We're going to encourage the police to outreach to the community, especially starting in the schools, to let the children know, because that is where the problem starts, right where the seeds are sown. Also, we will have a comprehensive approach to this crime fighting situation. And that is what we will do to make sure the crime is very low and ensure perpetrators are brought to justice. We are hoping we wouldn't have to do it because proactive prevention, because we want our person to be proactive and industrious citizens in our country. And these are just some of the things that we will do as a party and as a government to ensure crime fighting is effective and targeting the right areas.
Thank you, Mr. David Pell. And before we allow the political leader to wrap up, I just wanted to insert a few matters of housekeeping. There will be no perspectives tonight. Obviously, we have provided sufficient food for thought in this press conference. And we are also giving you an opportunity, if you had not seen it, if you were not able to join the start of this press conference, to give you that opportunity to do so in the comfort of your homes over the course of this evening. Hopefully, you have electricity. And if you do, then you can always take your time and go back and absorb some of the points that were made tonight. And the second note is that we are in the heart of preparing for our Independence Ball on September 18th. The president of the National Women's Group is present in the room, and she would want me to remind all of you who are not yet ticketed, who have not yet received your tickets, to head down to our secretariat on Saturday between the hours of 10 to 2, and you can purchase your tickets. We are so generous this year that we have maintained the price at $250. And we want to tell you that this ball, PAM's Independence Ball, is the marquee event, not only in September, but in the entire year in St. Kitts and Nevis. If you're not there, you are square. So we want everybody to purchase their tickets. We know that we have been climbing, we have been easing out of COVID, and the numbers have slowly been climbing up to the days when we were at nearly 400 and 500. We want everybody to come out and have a good time. Set aside your funds. In fact, I believe the National Women's Group president did give us a big hint the other day that she's willing to do a purchase payment plan, similar to hire purchase, because we want to give everybody the opportunity to come and enjoy themselves. Things are tough. People are under serious financial strain. I told somebody in a conversation today, he asked me, how are you? I said, I'm not good today. And he said, well, me too. And I said, you know what? People are under physical strain, emotional strain, and financial strains. I mean, there's so many emotional, tortures going on these days. So we want you to just let your hair down come September the 18th and come and have a good time with us. It is a time when we embrace everyone from across the divide, the political divide. We are welcoming to everybody of every color. And on another commercial note, we are going to, on the 16th of September, National He was there, and I see our deputy political chairman is staring me straight in the face to make sure I get it right. She is the head of a committee who is putting in place He was the breakfast. Of course, we are allowing our folks, our nationals, to dine with our only living national hero, the Right Honorable and Right Excellent Sir Kennedy Simmons. And so we would have a breakfast this year. The venue has changed. We're going to share more information over the course of the coming months. We want to make sure this year that we are able to accommodate everyone. And so call us and contact us for tickets. Again, we are going to celebrate our independence in style. We are proud to say that in our party, we have the father of an independence, St. Kitts and Nevis. And so when you celebrate with us, you're really celebrating the essence of independence. So thank you in advance for your support for those two primary activities. First, our National Heroes Breakfast on the 16th, and then the marquee event in St. Kitts and Nevis, our Independence Ball on September the 18th. Please get your ticket for both, or at least one. So I'll now make way for the political leader rather, to give her wrap-up presentation on this evening's media conference.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Piaro. It was a pleasure coming before you this evening to address issues that touch and concern the people. And as I always like to think that people must matter, people must be at the forefront, one of the things that we will be doing shortly as a party is a listening tour. Initially, the listening tour in my mind was more concerned about the party in terms of some introspection, but there are too many matters right now that are affecting our people, and so it may be a bit of both. We need to hear from our people so that we prepare ourselves for making the necessary solutions, providing the necessary solutions, and helping our country to grow economically, helping our people to be empowered, and making sure that persons are in a financially better position. We do not like what is happening. Our nation is hurting, not just in the pockets. Persons are hurting emotionally because of what is happening. In terms of the crime situation, we know that it has reached an all-time high when our 9-year-olds can be killed. And I am someone who feels passionately when it comes to children. And so we need to ensure that we consult with the different communities, the stakeholders, to find the solutions. We need more engagement programs for our youths. And even though there are issues or were issues in relation to the Peace program, now the Elevate program, let us look at that program and see what were the pluses from that program, how we can help our youth, how we can help prevent crime and reduce crime. Get some engagement, get persons to help the grieving families who are hurting to be able to resolve the issues that they're facing. And conflict resolution has to be a key component in what we do going forward so that persons cannot be so angry anymore. Unemployment is a serious issue. We have persons who have just lost their jobs recently and some time before. We need to find avenues to help these persons get out of any state of depression, because it is a hard pill for a mother to swallow, knowing that she would not know where the next meal is going to come from. We need to be able to make our country a better, safer place. And the People's Action Movement is here to support you. We're here to hear from you. We're here to guide you and offer all the solutions that we can. And we also want you to offer some to us, because we do not have all the answers, but we know once we work together, we stay connected, St. Kitts and Nevis will be in for greater things. And so I thank you. You will be hearing from me in different mediums, hearing from our party, because the People's Action Movement always want to ensure that the people are at the forefront. We are not traveling anywhere. We are not running away. We will be right here with you every step of the way.
Thank you, political leader Gray Brooks. And that effectively has brought us to the end of this media conference. We want to thank all of you who took the time to join and stay with us over the last 2 hours. And again, if you join late, obviously you can always go on our YouTube page and find the entirety of the media conference there for you to review and listen at your leisure. We'll see you again in 3 months' time for our next quarterly press conference. But of course, if there's anything that is pressing that we need to reach to you before then, we would certainly come back to the media. In the meantime, we remind you that one of the other ways that we connect with you is through our perspectives on Thursdays, our live perspectives. They air at 7 o'clock, and so we will be back next Thursday with you on perspectives. Thank you so much for staying with us, and we want to invite you to keep your support going in any shape or form for the People's Action Movement, because we're here and we're here for you. Have a good evening. God bless everyone.